Hello, everyone, and thank you for your patience. I really appreciate it as we get going into our 2024 Easy EDM webinar. We're going to be covering topics such as geometry, curves, and solid models. My name is Chris Lalashis. I'm your sales and application support engineer. I've been with EasyCam for 20 years now. EasyCam got its start back in 1982 as a Bridgeport product, and that was our claim to fame. We serve customers such as hobbyists, people that have never run a machine before, machinists, engineers, even shop owners. So let's talk a little bit about your benefits. You own EasyCam when you purchase. You don't have to upgrade and buy support and maintenance every year. That's optional. We do offer a subscription service to you. You get 1 year support and maintenance free with every purchase, and that includes the upgrades. Custom interface. You can create toolbars and toolbar buttons, so you can save yourself the hassle of dragging your mouse across the screen every time for repetitive tasks. Post-processors and post-processor editing is included with your 1 year support and maintenance. We offer all the post-processors that you need, so you don't have to buy each one. And if there's something that needs to be customized, we'll do the editing for you so you can feel confident when you hit cycle start. SolidWorks and a Libre transfer, along with many other extensions, so you can communicate with any CAD system. Custom videos. So if you're stuck on a project, you can send us your files and we'll tailor a video to your needs. We also have over 200 videos on the web covering various topics. And if we don't have a video on a particular topic, we'll create one for you. Wizards, we present you with the least amount of information up front so you can create a complete program, keeping the interface nice and simple. Solid models are not required. As you're going to see in this video, you can create geometry and curves, so you don't have to revise and update the model just for simple toolpaths. Okay, as we dive in, we're going to be creating geometry and curves from scratch. We're also going to look at fourth axis geometry. Match the XYUV with curves at different heights and with different points. XYUV contours. So we're going to look at an open contour on a solid model. Auto XYUV. So you really don't have to do much more than a couple of clicks, and EasyCam will create the operation and everything you need to program that part. Modify a curve. So when the model's a little complex, you have some undercuts, I'm going to show you how to modify a path so you can get the correct wire path. Complex die recognition will be included. 3D curves, those can be very challenging for other CAM systems, but we handle it quite well. Hole recognition using a new contour. Die recognition of multiple regions. You'll see how fast we can create dies. And finally, we're going to show you the different strategies for pocketing. So let us begin. I'm going to open up Easy EDM. And here I'm going to share my screen for you. We have 2 pages for EDM. Up above, you have some hyperlinks that'll open up PDF files that'll walk you through step by step. You can print those files out and go to like Staples or Kinko's so you can follow along in a paper manual. Okay, so new EDM. I'm going to create some geometry. I'll start with circle, center, and radius. Then I'll change the radius. Okay, now I'm going to switch over to line at 2 points. And you can see my cursor's not grabbing anything, and these are going to be tangent points. So I'm going to switch over to the snaps on the left-hand side, and that'll be our tangency snap. And you can see the 2 possibilities. Now notice my cursor, I'm considerably far away from the geometry. That makes it so you can really speed up the process. You can see how fast I created that line to a tangent. So I'm going to trim those segments that I don't need. I'm going to use some construction lines, and I'm going to be parallel to the x-axis. We'll go with 60 degrees. And I'm going to pick that line. I'm going to go another 60 degrees from it. And back to our circle center and radius. And this will be 1.5. Switch over to offset. 1/4 of an inch. You can see we can offset arcs, lines, and circles, inside and outside. I'm going to use center and edge. We can now delete the construction lines. Go back to my trimming. I'm going to make copies. I'm going to make 3 copies at 90 degrees. So you go to Edit, Rotate Z, 90 degrees. Make sure I'm off of X, Y, Z, 0. Move over to Copy Mode at the top toolbar. Add our 3 copies. And just put a window around the geometry that we're copying. All right, now let's get into programming. But before we do, we have to create a path, and we call that a curve. So we go with New Curve. Just double, when you're in Curve Chain, you can double click, and all the connected geometry will form a closed curve. And every curve has to have a start and end. Let's see, before I do that, let's just go in and say we pre-drilled. So I'm gonna put in a hole. Create our start and end, and I'm just going to snap to the center of that hole. Now this is an outside profile, so it's going to be a punch. We need our thickness. And it asks me to select the curve on the screen. And we'll verify that. Okay, maybe we have some tabs that we want to include so that the part doesn't drop out. So you just go back to start and end. I'm just going to use snap to screen. And you can see that I can make tabs. If we verify that again, we have all of our stops. Now to eliminate tabs or start and end points, we just click on that icon again. I'm going to use snap to all, zoom right in. There we go. Let's make it, let's make it a little more interesting. We'll actually add a taper angle to this. And that's right in the work step. That's a conic. Go with right hand and an angle of say 7 degrees. And that produces a taper throughout. But life isn't necessarily that simple. So maybe there's a section that has a taper. Maybe you want to have a section that uses cutter comp where another section won't. Maybe there's an angle that kind of feathers out from 0 degrees to 5 degrees. Let's use that as an example. So to do that, we're going to change the conic over to our record. Then in the Curves tab, you'll find Motion Record. Select your segment. The manager appears. And here is what we were talking about. You can add cutter comp to that section. I'm going to add a taper. So when I first approach that segment, we'll use 5 degrees and an angle of 5 degrees throughout. You can cut and thread at that point. You can also add an M0 or an M01. Verify. And I did mention adding a taper from 0 to 5 degrees. So we'll turn that on. First angle 0, 5 degrees. Let's take a look at that. Okay. So now we'll move on to our die, the slots in the center. I'm going to use the curve chain. Just double click each slot. I'm going to be precise with my start and end points. I'm going to snap to the center of the radius. I'll use snap to circle center, making it a little easier, making sure I'm accurate. A new die. We have many die types to choose from. Cover about every situation you can encounter. 2 angles in a land. Any taper. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go with die 3. Down below, you have conic 1. Where does it start? I'll just say 0.6. An angle of, let's say 6 degrees. The second position is at the bottom here. So it starts, the land starts at the bottom. And an angle, let's say 3. You have your 1 cut on the top angle, 1 cut on our land, and 1 cut on the bottom. Yeah, and you can adjust those. But if we go into the technology table, you can see that we're able to adjust our feeds, our water, our comp register, and comp value. And you can do that for each one. So conic 1, the land, conic 2. Now let's see what that looks like. Okay, we got to pick our curve. Verify. 3D preview. And in green, green represents our land. Okay, well, that gets us out of geometry and curves. Let's move on to our next part. And we'll look at a little bit of 4-axis using geometry. Begin with our curve. I like to start with the bottom, so that'd be curve 1. And we need our start and end. A new curve for the upper section. Now that is going to be a new XYUV. So let's add our curves, curve 1 at the bottom, top, and hit the auto button to get the distances that you need for the 2 curves. Now, if I look at that, you can see that it's twisted. Now, I did this intentionally so you can see some of our cool features. I'll verify it again. You can see that we're getting twisting, overlaps. It's a mess. So we'll use match XYUV. And what I'll do is I'll match the upper with the lower. Do the same thing over here. Tilt this ever so slightly. Now let's see what we get for toolpath there. Do a top view. See that we handled this perfectly. And because we matched it, everything throughout came into alignment. EasyCam does a really nice job with that. Okay, we'll hide our piece. Okay, so that's a good example. I've got 2 more I wanted to show you when it comes to the 4-axis. 4-axis is an important topic. So you might get a DXF, a DWG, something with 2D geometry. Maybe this was constructed flat, as you can see here. So we're going to turn this into 4-axis. Going to make a new curve, curve chain. Again, with our start and end, it's very important. Pre-drilled hole. let's see. So we need to take it from flat, raise up that last curve. So we'll go to move. And we're moving just in G and Z. We'll go 25.4. Select curve 2 over here in the list box on the right. Just making it easy. Now we're ready for our XYUV. Again, curve 1, curve 2, auto. Verify. That's almost a perfect match. I'm going to show you how easy it is to match the XYUV snapping on the screen. Okay, that's straightened those two out. And we got a little bit of a twist in here. I can leave the toolpath up so I can look at the twist and just basically click on the two, verify again. You can see how easy that was to straighten that out. All right, we'll move on to my last example of 4-axis. Here we already have curves built. On the right-hand side, this work step had already taken care of that, so I'm going to switch over to the left-hand side. So I'm going to open up the existing work step. I'm just going to click and drag and remove. Now I don't know the names of these curves. I can go down to the lower right-hand corner where it says path. There's a question mark, so I click on that. I'll pick the lower profile, then the upper. And verify that. And that's less than desirable, as you can see here. So I'm just going to match a couple. I don't want to go wild on that. I don't want to take up too much time. But again, with the match XYUV, snap to all. See what that did for me in a few clicks. That's actually not too bad. We've got a little bit going on over here. I'll correct one side. And we'll call it a day. So there, verify. Perfect. Okay, so moving on. I think what I have in store for you is an open contour on a solid model. Let's see if I'm right. Yes. Okay. So here we're just going to focus on the teeth in the front. And I'm going to begin by snapping a curve. I'm going to use intersection curve. I'm going to pick the middle of the tooth. That gives us a curve. And if we look at that curve, you can see it sliced the model at that level, giving us a little bit more of a curve than we wanted. So now I'm going to use that command again. I'm just going to adjust the Z height to 21. Now we get a second path. Now for 4-axis, you don't have to be on top and bottom. You don't have to, you can see that we're going to use these two curves to give us what we're after. But now we have to contend with that curve that's been sliced, the extra. And what we're going to do is we're going to drop down this menu and go delete from and to. I'm going to zoom right in. I'm going to delete this point here. The arrow showing me where we want to keep everything on the right-hand side. So it's showing me that the curve is going to the left. And we're going to delete to here. It gives us what we want. I'm going to generate the geometry. We're going to need geometry in just a minute, and I'll show you why. So we're going to go down to the bottom in the center. You see that curve 7 is active. I'm going to click on that, select my next curve. And our curve is uniform. It starts down this area here. I'm going to do the delete from and to. From this point over to this point. Generate our geometry. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a lead in and lead out, and I don't want to stop here. It's not going to give us a complete toolpath. So we'll go to geometry. I'm going to use trim and extend. Zoom right in. I'm going to take that piece of geometry, snap to screen, and just come somewhere out here. Same thing for the next side. And I just have to be close, that's all. All right, active curve, just do the bottom. Now I don't want to double up on this. I don't want to have like a line going and stopping here and then going here. It's going to affect our path. So I'll just go in, change delete from and to delete first, delete last. Okay, now we'll pick the next curve, do the same thing, delete last, delete first. So now we're going to build a linear line, snap to all, change curves. Now to keep going, it's always building at the end of the curve whenever I use a command up here. So I need to reverse the curve, reverse direction, go to linear. It's building on the end. Switch curves again, reverse direction. Okay, so a little bit of prep work, not too bad. I can't imagine trying to draw that or try to build on that in any other way. Let's just get in here. And we're going to create a new XYUV. Go to, another way you can access selecting curves is go to machining, select curve. Hit the auto button, verify our toolpath. You see that came out nice here, all the way down. And if you want to add the upper guide, so I'm just going to put my cursor on the top of the part. Come into our upper guide. And let's add an angle on our lead in and lead out. And verify. All right, that gave us what we're looking for. That'll cut a beautiful part. Next example. Let's see what I got for us next. So here we have a good candidate for our automatic XYUV. If I do a top view, see that we have an extrude, we have taper angles that vary, and so on. So, and we're going from a circular piece of geometry to basically like a rectangle. Now, what I haven't shown you is that we can move our coordinate system to standard locations. I mean, of course, you can move your coordinate system anywhere on the part that you'd like, but we have what they call world on model. I'm going to change from the top of the part to the bottom. I guess I'll select the center of the piece. And it's taken care of for you. Now we're going to go to machining, auto create. Here it's asking me to pick the lower point on the model. So we'll pick here. Now the upper point. Starts the work step. Automatic lead in and lead out is created for us. And verify. And that was matched up perfectly. The 3D preview. And another gorgeous part. And here I'm going to show you something that's maybe a little tricky. Like I said, those undercuts when in the beginning of the demonstration. We have an undercut over here and over here. And we've got this taper to deal with. So I'm going to create a face curve. Select the top. And for the remaining curve, I'm going to use silhouette. Put a window around our part. Now we are getting the undercuts, not so extensive, but we need to straighten that out. So we'll make that our active curve. Go to the curves menu. We have modify lengths, and we're going to move a point. So if I zoom in here, I'm going to pick my point, and I'm going to pick where it's going to move to. So that tidied that up for us nicely. And we're just going to do that for the other areas. Not too painful. All right, and we're going to build a start and end. Still XYUV. Let's pick the curves. Let's go to machining, select curves, bottom, top. And it's matched up. See what we have for the next example. Here we have a die. That's a 3D profile through here. We look at the underside. We've got a shelf. EasyCam will take care of that for us. So what I'm going to do is go to curves, die profile recognition. Build my start and end. Let's do a top view. That is going to be a die. Straight wall. Pick our curve. Verify our toolpath. And we have another case where we want to bring our wire guide up to the top. So I'll use snap to all. That gets copied to the clipboard. That's what we're after. And let's do a 3D preview. Now notice we're using a custom stock for our preview. When you bring in an STL file, you can call it stock SRF, and EasyCam is smart enough to know that name and give us the simulation based on that STL file. All right, now we're moving into some 3D work. So that curve's a little more complicated. And this is just a straight base on that. So let's do a top view. Click once on the magnifying glass and click once on the screen, and EasyCam zooms the model into full screen. I'm just going to rotate that. I like to be left to right. So we'll move it 90 degrees. XYZ 0. Okay. So here I'm going to build a face curve. Now we need to create the 3D part of it. Another face curve. But I'm going to join all the upper curves in one shot. Okay. We'll just focus on this one on the left. Pick our curve. Start over here. That's an XYUV. Bottom, top. Okay, we've got several of them. I'm just going to count them. We've got 7 copies of this one here, and we are symmetrical, so I have eight of them over on the right-hand side. So let's go into the work step. We have toolpath options, and we're going to add translation. But before I do, let's take a measurement, find out how the distance between them. Check distance, snap to all. That gets copied to the clipboard. It's 8 millimeters. So it's 8 millimeters in X, and we don't want to move our copies in Y. We're going to stay straight across. And our copy number is 7. Still calculating. It's complicated. So I like to think of it as a wall. If you can picture along the y-axis as a wall, we're going to take these copies and just jump the wall, give us the symmetrical order of things. So we're going to go to add symmetry. It's going to be across Y. Verify our toolpath. And we'll zoom in on the last one just to make sure we're all in alignment. There we are. And it's a fit. All right, next example. We're on topic 9. We have 2 more to go. So we'll open that file. We have some holes at this plane, and then we have another hole up here at the top. So we're going to use hole recognition. See how fast it detected all the holes. You have rapid moves between the ones that are the same diameter. Now we need to add our start and end. I'm going to use auto start. This would be considered a die. Now the start and end distance for holes isn't really going to apply. If you look at it, our start and end is in the center of the hole. I'm going to create a new contour. And I'm going to add, we want all the curves, so I'm just going to click and drag, add all of them, and verify. All right, we need our wire guide at the top. Flush with the top. And we're good to go on the bottom. So that example is down. This is a really busy die. We have various sizes as well to deal with. So we'll go to curves, new die recognition. Now we're going to use auto start. And we want to make sure the start and end distance is small enough to accommodate the smaller profiles. Hit OK. Okay, you can see we've got a lead in and lead out for all of them. Select our curves. Well, auto start and end is useful if you know the endpoints, start and end points. So what we're going to do is we're going to generate a G-code program. Output start and end locations. Save your file to the directory. Hit OK. Let me share this with you. Just make sure I've got the right file here. There we are. Maybe make that a little bigger for us. And you can see that we have all the points. Now you could send that off to your customer if they're going to do the pre-drilling for you, or you can use that on your milling machine. Okay, back to EasyCam. Now for our last example, I'm going to demonstrate pockets and the 3 strategies that we have for those. So we're going to build our path, use curve chain. Now I'm going to select one piece of geometry and another that is not connected. And EasyCam will go throughout the screen and find all of the geometry connecting it together. So I'll use an auto start. I'm going to zoom in on this one pocket. That's going to be a contour. But what you're going to do is you're going to change the cycle type to pocketing. And the change in color, that's a finished pass. Notice there are no rapid moves. You have one rapid move going from pocket to pocket, but that's it. The wire stays inside the boundary. Okay, we have our change to radial. And in milling, this would be considered like a high-speed machining. On the height, you basically put in your values for the thickness. The curve, it's just a 2D curve, so there you have to add the height and thickness. All right, let's change over to our last strategy, zigzag. Here we have our step over. I'm going to take the lead out of there, and we're going to use a finished path. Okay. Now we go back to our presentation. Now for communication, you can bring in you can use RS-232, floppy, USB, Ethernet, and PCM CIA card. So whatever you need to get the file into the machine, we're good to go. Then you can use any extension. EasyCam will generate a .iso, NC, TXT, whatever you need for your machine code. And we have the post processor and how to edit a post processor. I'm just going to open up the window for you to give you an idea what the code looks like. I'll open a post. FANUC. And here is the program start. So it's a little complex. So this is something you want EasyCam to handle for you, but you can, of course, if you get used to the language, you can make your adjustments here as well. Back in the old days, we used to have this type of format here, where you use EOB end of block, that's your enter for the next command. We have a word list here for that. So you have your sequence number. If at this point you're going to add your X coordinate, Y coordinate. So you get an idea of what's involved. All right, well, at this time, I'll take any questions and I'll give you any answers as I can. I'll give you a second to type that out for me. I have a question about copying the height to the menu. Let me see if I understand this correctly. Is that a matter of clicking on the top of the model and pasting the value in? If you could just maybe clear that up a little bit for me. Or is this referring to a 2D curve and we need to add the height and okay, so let's go back. We're back in EasyCam. So I understand that we're not talking about, okay, so back to the top of a model. Let's see. So like the lower, let's move that coordinate down. Center. Okay, so using snap to all, let me make sure I get this right. Just text me. We click on the top of the model. Let's make something here real quick. New die, advanced. So if I click on the top of the model, that gets copied to the clipboard. Go to advanced, paste. So that would be the upper guide. I don't have another curve, but is that what we were trying to get at? That we click on the top of the model with snap to all, and then we can paste that value in the upper guide. You can do the same thing for the lower as well. Okay, wonderful. I was able to answer that question. Please hit me up with anything else you might have in question. We'll give you some time. Take your time. Okay, well, I want to thank you so much for attending the webinar. There'll be future webinars that will keep you posted. Uh, Maybe even recommend some topics, write an email to us or give me a call. Our number is 508-347-3222. Guys, take care. Thank you so much.